men, Ha'am, Asher, Yitti, Wayomer, Lama, Zeh, Imsa, Chen, Be'eni, Adonai. I tell you, these glasses change. I jump lines with it. They'll jump from line to line on me. I get lost sometimes. Wayomer. Third person singular, third person masculine singular, Kal-Wow consecutive and perfect. That's how you conjugate that verb there. Third person masculine singular is he. And then you got a Y on the front of it, which is an and. That's a conjunction. And he said, and it's Cal stem, but it's while consecutive and perfect. Brother Roger, how would you explain that just a little bit? He said and kept on saying. He continued to say. This is a conversation now. And he said, and he continued to say Esau. And what does Esau mean? Harry. All right. We got Harry back there with us tonight. All right. And then he said, Atsikah, and let me place or establish. First person construct, Hithel, cohortive. He said, let me establish for myself, please. Na is please. That means I beg or please. It is a particle of entreaty with you from of the people who with me. And he said, why? Then, let me find grace or favor. See that word chen there? That means favor, grace, in your sight or in your eyesight, my Lord. All right. Now, we'll read this from the Amplified Bible. Who all's got Amplified Bibles tonight? All right, young lady. We'll look at that from your Amplified Bible here in a couple of minutes. Wanted to get one of them. I know Brother Abe has got one too. Maybe. All right. 33:16 now. Wayashav Bayom Hahu Esau lead daughter call Sarah. All right. And he returned. Third person maximum singular, Kal-Wow consecutive and perfect. He turned and he kept on turning and he kept on returning. End day, the that. You see that ha-hu there? That ha on the front of it, that's a definite article, and then hu is that, 214. And that word that there, it's like a third personal pronoun, but also a demonstrative pronoun at times also. In Greek, there's a whole lot of different terms for this. But in Hebrew, it just one word covers it all. Hebrew is a much more limited language than Greek is. In the day that, the that. Esau. To his lidarako, on his way or his journey toward Seir. Toward Seir. Remember what Seir means? Remember what Seir means. What does Seir mean? The rough high country, the mountains, the place of the goats. The place of the mountain goats. That's what Seir means. The place of the mountain goats. How many of you ever seen a mountain goat or a mountain sheep? In the wild. You have, brother. Have you up in the Sierras? Did you ever see any mountain sheep up there?
Over close to Mojave.
Yeah. Up there in Fish Lake Valley, when you went from Fish Lake Valley to from Fish Lake Valley east, out of Fish Lake Valley, and you went over toward Silver Peak, over the Coyote Pass. Back up in there, there are some beautiful herds of bighorn sheep. Just beautiful. And, it's absolutely wondrous, but it's really rocky. Those things, I mean, they exist in an area where nothing else could climb around, it seems like. I mean, they just bounce around just like they've got springs in their feet. Or in their muscles, they just bounce. How many of you ever seen a mule deer jump? Mule deer can jump 12 feet every leap. 12 feet every leap. All right. But the sheep and the goats are sure-footed. And that's where old Esau lived, in that goat country. That goat country. Now, if you go back over there, and you get down by the Dead Sea and toward the wilderness and all of that, all through there, and this is down, you know, Seir is on down there from the Dead Sea on down further. If you go out there, you'll see this is where the shepherds that herd the sheep and the goats, they go out there, and that grass out there is really high protein, and highly nutritious, because there's not a whole lot of it out there, but they'll graze and they'll follow the grass, and they'll go on and on and on, and they're all over this really rough country. Now, have any of you ever been to the Qumran caves? Qumran caves down by the Dead Sea?
I haven't been actually in the caves.
You've in that area? Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, that area, the Qumran caves, we know that somebody discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls about 1000 A.D. Most people don't know that, but somebody did. They went in there, and they found one of the books of Enoch in there, because the book of Enoch was the most prolific book that they wrote, was the book of Enoch. Well, they scattered that old manuscript all over, and they found it. They called some of them Damascus manuscripts and different things, but they were found at the Dead Sea Scrolls. But the reason why they didn't get in there, because those caves are hard to get to. But this boy following his sheep up there one day was following and grazing his sheep and goats, and he got to throwing rocks in a cave opening, and he kept hearing something break, like pottery or glass. And he climbed up in there, very carefully climbed up in there, and found all of these ancient manuscripts in this one cave. Okay? Well, that's the area, Mount Seir. This is the area like that rough, hilly mountainous areas. 33 in verse 17. I have preached almost 4 hours today. So, my voice is not holding out real good. I preached here this morning for over an hour, and then I went and preached about 3 hours on the radio. And we had a good time today. But I told them I had to quit and leave because I had to save some of it for tonight. We Yaakov, Nasa, Sukkata, that is. Why Yevin, Lo, Bayit, Yuli Miknehu. Your words are just music to my ears to hear you read this stuff. That's thrilling. You're paying attention. You're trying. Why Yevin, Lo, Bayit, Yula Miknehu, Asa, Succoth, Al, Ken, Kara, Shem, Hamakom, Sukkoth. Now, we read the one line a couple of times, but that's good. I just like to hear you read it. And Jacob, we Yaakov, and Jacob. And what does Jacob mean? What's Jacob mean? To follow the heel. To follow the heel, or to nip at the heels, or to trip. And Jacob, he journeyed. Jacob, he had journeyed, is what it literally says. Jacob, he had journeyed. Look at that. Third person masculine, cal perfect. That's perfect tense, so that means completed. And Jacob, he had journeyed to Succoth. To Succoth. What does Succoth mean? Shavuot? It's a shelter. It's a shelter. Now, I'm going to tell you something about these. There weren't very many houses back in these days. There was a city of Succoth, all right? And the city, there were houses in the city, and there was a wall around the city. Every city, the word city means to watch. It means watchtowers. They would build a city, and Jacob was a nomad. He was a shepherd and a cowboy. And they followed the sheep. Now, as they went across country, there was a lot of outlaws around back in those days, kind of like today, you know. Brother Euless, did you ever travel across the United States back in the 50s or something and take your family and just camp on the side of the road in the car and just go from place to place? Have you ever done that?
I did that with my mom and dad.
Okay, we did that a bunch of times across this country. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You would probably get hijacked if you did that today. Unless you were heavily armed. That's the way it is. But we did that a lot. The first time I ever went to Oklahoma, to Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, where my family came from, we went all the way across the country. The first night we stayed out there in the Mojave Desert someplace, this side of Needles. Out there in the desert. Just pulled over out there, threw our blankets out on the ground, and laid down among the tarantulas and the rattlesnakes. Back in the old days, back when Jacob and Abraham traveled, there were roads. There were paths. Now, the roads didn't look like that. They were like this, all over the place. Every so many miles, there was a walled area. A walled area. Out in the middle, it was a walled area all here, and there was a little apartments or rooms all the way around it. And, of course, there was usually just one inlet and outlet, one gate. And the gate was closed after dark. Now, the reason where they would go, they would travel, and Mary and Joseph, when they traveled from one to the other, every so many miles, they had one of these, what they call a rest area. Okay, a rest area. We have rest areas. Well, they would go into these rest areas, and you could go in there, and they would shut the gate. Now, if you had money, you could go into one of these rooms. And up on the top was a balcony. That's for the rich cats. Okay? Down below was for the less fortunate, and out here in the middle was for the poor dudes. That barely able to feed yourself. Well, and they had food. They would fix food, and you could buy food. They were selling food and everything like this, or you carried your own food. They'd get out here and kill a goat or a cow every day or whatever, and they would cook the thing, and they would make bread. They had ovens and things, and you'd go from one of these rest areas to the other. But a nomad, these were regular travelers, but a nomad just went from camp area to camp area, and they spread out their long, spread out tents with that, and they were usually made out of black goat hair. And you could see these. I've seen them over there in the Middle East. Well, Succoth here, this town, there was a town. Basically up on a hill. Almost everything's on a hill. They would put it up there so you could have lookouts on the towers, and they could protect themselves from marauding gangs or nomads. Alibaba and his 40 thieves or whatever it was. That happened a lot back then. Well, here was Succoth. Jacob, he's going to be on the outskirts of Succoth, but there is a city there. There's a city there that's a pretty old city. Succoth is. Succoth means shelter. Okay? Succoth means shelter. Joshua 13 and 27, Judges 8, 5, and 14. It cross references to this in Psalm 60 and verse 6. And Jacob, he had journeyed to Succoth. And he kept on building for himself a house. Now, what we're talking about houses here, we're not talking about a mansion, we're not talking about a 3-bedroom house, but he had houses, he had sheepfolds for his cattle and for his goats and for his sheep. They would have pens out there with shelters for them. Okay? It would keep the sheep and the goats and the cattle from being attacked at nighttime or being stolen by rustlers. And a house for his cattle. All right? Umik Nehu. This is the large cattle. And he made shelters, therefore, because he called the name of the place Succoth, shelter or booths. What kind of a shelter do we have here? We'll talk about the booths. The Feast of Booths in the Bible. All right? What they would do is they would remember the Feast of Booths. They were supposed to remember how God led them through the wilderness for 40 years. And they were in shelters. And a shelter was, they put a pole here, a pole there, or even go up against a hill like this and put a pole out here and like this, and they would put covers over it. Limbs, palm branches, whatever, they could throw up on top of it. And the Feast of Booths today, they built little shelters like this, and they have palm branches and everything, and they have grapes and things hanging down from it. They'll hang fruit and whatever. These booths were shelters where they could drive cattle in and drive sheep in, and they'd take and put a stone fence around a sheepfold. All right? They'd get out here and they'd put a stone fence around a sheepfold, and sometimes they would even have on the front of it here like this, they would have an area of a wall like this. And they'd drive the cattle in easier this way, and then the shepherd would lay down in the wall here, and then on this they would plant thorn bushes, where you couldn't get over there very well without getting thorns in you. Thorns, the worst thorns they could get. That's what they wanted to grow on the walls here to keep this place secure. So this is the shelters, and then in this thing they would put sticks up like this, a pole. And sometimes, even out the other side of this thing, right in here, they would have their big sprawling tent. Their big sprawling tents. Now the Arabs that lived like this also, they'd have their sheepfolds and out here, and their sprawling tents out here, and they would bring their horses in there with them. And the horses stayed in their tents with them. Those Arabian horses. Right. Are you learning anything from this? All right. We got to learn the culture of the people and of the time. Genesis 25:20, 12 and 6, 28 and 2, Joshua 24 and 1, Judges 9 and 1. Yavu, Yaakov, Shalem, Ir, Shechem, Asher, Baaretz, Canaan, Babu, Mippadam, Aram, Wayishchan, Et, Panay, Ha'er. Wayavu. And he came and kept on coming, Jacob, in safety. Look at that word shalom there, shalom. That's what the word means. It means an agreement. The word shalom or peace means agreement. That's what it literally means, agreement. It means to be complete, and it means to be safe. All right? The world is looking for peace. Isn't that the thing? The world's looking for peace. But you can't have peace until you have an agreement, until people agree. As the nation of America today, we have no agreement. Our nation is totally in an political upheaval because we don't have any agreement at all. How can you have peace when you don't even have any agreements? Can you? Can you expect to go accomplish anything without agreement? That's impossible. So there can be no safety, there can be no peace, there can be no completion without agreement. And this city here, the city, this is a watched area, an abode of men. You'll hear all of these things in the lexicons, page 746 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Shechem. Shechem means what? Shechem means what? Shelter. Which inland, Baaretz, inland of Canaan. What does Canaan mean? We get our name. What was the land of Canaan? Who was it named after? The land of Canaan. Who was it named after? Ham's son named Canaan. All right? And the word Canaan means possession, or Cain means possession. In Genesis, the 4th chapter, after Eve had her first child, and she had multiple births, by the way, but the first one to come out was Cain. And she said, I have gotten a man, even the Lord. she thought Jehovah was born, the Messiah was born. She thought she had created the Messiah. She thought, now here is our Messiah. But he was a disappointment, as we know. Adam and Eve saw the full fruit of their sin come forth. Because that man, that one that they thought was a Messiah, murdered the other one. Now Ham had a son. Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth got on the ark. We talked about the ark this morning in our class this morning when we talked about the second coming and the rapture and all that. But the ark, after the ark landed, the earth became different. Man took animal flesh to eat, which they did not before. Not legally anyway. We find out that the Nephilim were eating flesh before that. But they planted a vineyard, and Noah got drunk and was in his tent. He lived in a tent, like we're talking about here, these big tents. And he went in the tent, and him and his wife, and Ham went in the tent with him and his wife, and maybe, according to the rabbis, he molested his own mother. And Cain could have been the product of that. Cain, the son called Canaan. Well, God cursed Canaan and said that he was going to be a servant of servants. Well, Canaan was the one that went in and established this land. This was the father of these people. This was Canaan. Okay, the man that went in here. Okay? This is the father of this land. By the way, God did not curse the Hamite races to be slaves. I don't care what the Southern Baptists said for 200 years. They didn't do it. God did not curse. He cursed Canaan. And Canaan would be a servant to servants, is what it said. A servant to servants. In other words, that he would go into the land and he would build all of these cities. And he would build all of the areas. A land flowing with milk and honey. A land full of vineyards and orchards. And Jacob's children would go down into Egypt for 400 years, and they would come back and they would take that land. And all the time they thought they were building their own homes and building their own farms and their own vineyards and their own orchards, but they were actually slaves for Jacob. Because Jacob was going to take the land. And they say, well, why would God be so arbitrary as to condemn these people? Why would he say, I love you and I hate you, and I'm going to give you everything he has? Why? Well, we find out in history and in archaeology and anthropology that we find out that these people were a very, very idolatrous people, and they were very diseased, and they had horrible sexual practices and everything, just like Canaan did. This was their father. Okay? And God told them when they went into some areas here that they were so diseased with syphilis and venereal sexually transmitted disease and everything, their animals and they both were infected with it. And God said, kill every man, woman, child, and dog, and sheep, and cow, and goat, or they will infect you. You have to cleanse the land. Okay? That's why. Because they would become like this. Right here we're going to have a city of converts to Judaism. This is a sad history in the history of Israel. A sad day. And came Jacob in safety to the city. In safety. Now, why did he have safety? Because there was agreement. There was agreement between him and the people that lived in the city. He could live around there. They didn't just let him come in there. He made an agreement with them. All right? And Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, in his coming, Kyle infinitive construct, from Padan. What does Padan mean? Remember what that means? Padan. Here we have a preposition on front of it, which is man. Page 580 is where that comes from. And then we have Padan. What does Padan mean?
Wet meadow?
Yeah, like a garden. A garden or a wet meadow field. A beautiful, luscious, green field. That's what Padan. From Padan Aram. Okay, that's basically from Aram. The Can't think of the name of the place today. Syria. Aram. Syria. From the garden place in Aram. Now, by the way, not far from Syria, not far from Damascus, Syria. I've been there. I spent too much time in Damascus, Syria. Rough place. Talk the most backward place in the world was Damascus, Syria. I never saw such filth and such backwardness as what was in Damascus, Syria when I was there. I spent a week there. Barely came out of there with my life and my health. I got sick. I got dysentery. Terrible over there. Terrible. I stayed in the Oriental Palace Hotel right in Damascus, Syria. I went down the street, called straight over there in that gigantic place over there where a great big marketplace is under one roof for miles. Beautiful artwork, all types of inlay and silk, embroidery, and everything that you could think of is in this place. They have they do glass work, blown glass work, everything else in here. And I went on different little tours, archaeological tours, because this is one of the oldest cities in the world. All right? This city was there when Abraham was there. It was the old city when Abraham was there. Okay? We're going out there in this one area, and it was a lush, green, big river running through this area. And all around on both sides of this river was great big pastures and fields. And they would cut out of the river, and they would irrigate these fields and things. All this was a lush, irrigated place, and that's where they said the Garden of Eden was, according to the Syrians. This was a Garden of Eden. But this word here means garden. Okay? The garden in Aram, or Syria. And he kept on camping toward the face of the city. The face of the city is what? What is the face of the city? Where will you go in the city? In the gate. So he camped. Now, how far this was from the gate of the city, we don't know. But right inside of the gate of the city was a chamber or a. Get rid of some of this. There are all kinds of illustrations. I'm not an artist, as you can see. Inside of the city, here's the city, a walled city, and they didn't have to be square. But right inside the gate here, where you came in, was also the court. This is where the city dads would all be around in here. All the lawyers and judges of the city. Anybody had a problem, they came in here and they figured out the problems right here with the elders of the city, the heads of the families of the city. Okay? So now he's here, he's camped toward the face of this city. And they've allowed him to camp out here. Out in the Garden of Padan. 33:19 now. Vayekim et halkat hasedeh asher natal sham aholal miad b'nei hamur avi shechem b'miah kisitah. And he bought, or he purchased. He brought money, and he purchased, et, the sign of the direct object, the portion of this field where there was dampness and dew. All right, there was a spring out here someplace, a spring. Of this field, Shaddai, Hasadeh, Hasadeh. This word goes back to breast, which means moist. A woman feeds her children by breast milk. That's what it's talking about. El Shaddai, the name El Shaddai, the Most High God, or the Almighty God. It's talking about the all-nourishing one. Also, this all goes back to this same root. 994 is the root of the page that it's on, where he had stretched out and put down tent stakes there. Now the word there, Shem, means name or or monument or pillar sometimes. People would go out and they would put out a pillar. How many of you have gone, Brother Euless, you camped all over the Sierras, and you go along and you run into where an old campsite was. What do you find in an old campsite? Tell me what's there. What's the first thing you're going to find? A fire pit. You're going to find a fire pit. And you go back up in the White Mountains back up in there, and they graze these sheep back up in there, and you'll find out where the old sheep camps were. The first thing you're going to find is a fire pit. A fire pit. And you'll find sometimes a cabinet on a wall or on a tree. This up there where they'll have beans and coffee and things in it. And you'll have a mirror where they shave and look at themselves and wash their faces in the morning. And it'll always be near a stream. Near a stream. All right. And he bought the portion of the field, this moist meadow, there, where he had stretched out and put down tent stakes there, his tent. Hola. See, now he didn't build a house, did he? All he's doing is building shelters for his cattle and his sheep. His sheep will have more of a solid shelter than he will, because the walls, they're going to have walls around the sheepfolds where they're going to put thorn bushes and berry vines and things. From a hand of the Bene. What does Bene mean? That comes from Ben, and that means son. Okay? Son means what? Brother Abe, do you remember what son means? Abe? What does son mean? According to a pattern. According to a pattern. Of Hamar. All right. How about Hamar? What does Hamar mean? Hamar. Young lady, you know what Hamar means? How about you, Sharon? Do you remember what Hamar means? No. All right. Brother Roger? All right. Pam, you remember what Hamar means? Harry, you remember what Hamar means? Hamar means jackass. That's exactly what it is, a jackass. It is a male ass. It is a jackass. A jack is a male donkey. All right? And that's what it means. His name was Jackass. That's what his name was. Now, I'm going to tell you something about a jackass, about a donkey. A donkey is a very strong animal. A donkey will carry a lot of weight compared to his weight. You get a big horse, a camel can carry a lot of weight. It's a big animal. But a donkey, for its size, I have seen donkeys in the Middle East, and I have pictures of them, and I show them in this class. A donkey will be covered so high that you can't hardly see the donkey. All you see is the pack going down the road. The donkey is a strong animal. So what Hamar must have been a very strong man. They called him Jackass or Donkey, and it was not a bad name. The name Jack would be that name today, Jack. Okay, Jack. His name was Jack. All right? Because he was a jack. He was a jackass. He was a male donkey. A strong male donkey. A strong donkey. Okay? That's what Hamar means. A he-ass. Strong. And it also means red or reddish. Flaming. Red. Some donkeys are very red. Reddish. Brown. Avi. Avi means what? Father. Avi is father. Avi, father of Shechem. And Shechem means what? Shelter. Shelter. All right. So we got one. The daddy's named Jackass and son's named Shelter. Okay. For 100 kisita. 100 pieces of money. And this money had been set by a standard of the laws of Hammurabi. It was a set standard. They had a stone that weighed so much. And they would put a stone on one side, and they would put silver on one side, and each silver coin had to weigh as much as that stone. That was a set standard. And it was for 100 pieces of money, or 100 money weight of whatever set value it was. This kisita. The laws of Hammurabi. Remember, they were all going by the laws of Hammurabi. The laws of Hammurabi went back 1,000 years before, or more, before the laws of Moses. Way back yonder. When Jacob went over there into the land of Aram, Padam Aram, over there in the land of old... can't think of his name, Whitey. Laban. Laban. Over there in the land of Laban, he said, I can't give you my youngest daughter first. I have to, according to the law of the land, I have to give you my oldest daughter first. That's how he shysted him. Okay? He should have told him that to begin with, huh? He should have been honest. Jacob was all the time in trouble. All the time. I think Jacob was a wonderful man. One of the greatest examples of Christian man in the Bible. And so many people have talked, I've heard people talk him down for years. But I'm going to tell you something. You just go start picking Jacob apart and find out what that man's made of. You'll find out he's made out of good stuff. He was made out of such good stuff that God named the whole people of Jacob Israel after him. Because he wrestled with God and overcame him. He wrestled with God. He wrestled with man, and he wrestled with God and came out the winner. Why Yetsev? That doesn't look like all that big old long word, does it? Sheneh? Or Shem, that is. I looked wrong. Shem Mizbeah. Wayikra. Lo El Elohi Yisrael. I tell you what, you'd be surprised what I see in these glasses sometime. Boy, I look at the word and it goes like that. See part of one word and part of another one. Vayetsev. And he established and kept on establishing there. Now the word there means Shem means monument or pillar. There is a permanent marker there. An altar. An altar. Mizbeah. An altar. And Wayikra, and he called and kept on calling to it El Elohi Israel. Look at that. The God of Israel. Or God, my God of Israel. That's what he called it. The name of the place. 34. Here we come to the sad story in the 34th chapter of the book of Genesis. What sits? Dinah, Bat, Leah, Asher, Yalidah, Li Yaakov, Lerot, Bivnot, Haaretz. All right, now here we have a little teenage girl. Maybe she's a teenager. She's getting up there. She's 12, 13, 11, 12, 13 years old, okay? And she kept on going out. Now, in the English translation, it doesn't tell you that. But she made a habit of going out. She made a habit of going out. Dinah. What does Dinah mean? Judge. Thank you, brother. Daughter, Bot. That comes from the same word as Ben. That daughter there, that Talon in there, that means that it's feminine. The daughter of Leah. And what does Leah mean? All right, it means weak eyes, but it probably means her eyes were so beautiful that it made the people that looked at her weak. All right, the men made her beautiful eyes made the men weak. Okay, Asher, whom she had birthed. All right, she had birthed to Jacob. See that? Lameth in the front of it, that's a preposition to Jacob. And what does Jacob mean? To follow the heel. All right. To look. She liked to look at things. She was a shopper. She was a shopper. How many of you girls like to shop? Kind of, sort of? You girls like to shop? I know I got one over there that loves to shop. You know Marilyn. You know Marilyn? My little sweet wife. Marilyn was abused greatly when she was growing up. And she was pretty much imprisoned out there. And she was not allowed to go any place but to the dump. And she would drive a car to the dump, out on the country roads, out to the dump. And boy, when we got married, she liked to go look at things that she never got to see anything before. When you're imprisoned like that, when you're locked down like she was locked down in her home, you get out and you want to look at things because you've never seen anything before. And she can go in the store and stay there all day long just looking at things. Just looking at things. Well, here we have this little girl named Dinah. She's been out there following the tracks of the sheep and the goats and the camel and the donkeys for a long time, all of her life. And now she comes to this city. And she wants to go look. She wants to go look. She wants to wear her eyes out. I ask Marilyn sometimes when she goes to town, she'll say, I'm going right over here. 6 hours later. I tell her, I get on the radio and talk to her on the ham radio. And I said, where are you? I'm so mile away. And I said, well, there's a lot of stores between there and here. How long are you going to be? Oh, it won't be very long. 3 hours later, here she comes moving in. She comes on in. She'd been looking. And I say, did you wear your eyes plumb out looking? Well, here we have Dinah. Dinah likes to look. So Dinah's out looking. All right? Daughter of Leah, whom she birthed to Jacob, and she is looking, infinitive. Cal infinitive. She just keeps on looking. She keeps on going out, and she keeps on looking upon the daughters of the land. She wants to find out what these little heathens are doing. These little pagans. See, what in the world are they doing? How they dress. What kind of shoes have they got on? What are they eating? What have they got that we don't have? Well, curiosity. Curiosity. So she's out and she's having a real good time. She's looking and looking and looking, and she's going out every day, over and over and over. This isn't one trip. I want you to understand this, that she's been going out and doing this, and she's been visiting with the women of this city, and she's in there going up and down the marketplaces. And this is her daily habit. She's been doing this a lot. Wayar, Otah, Shechem, then Hamor, Ha-Chiwi. That's a hard one. Nissi, Haaretz, Wayakah, Otah, Wayishkav, Otah, Wayaniha. And he kept on seeing her. He kept on seeing her because she kept on going out. She kept on visiting. She kept on shopping. She kept on looking. And looking and looking and looking. That's what it said before this, in the verse before, didn't it? And kept on seeing her Shechem, son of Hamor. Shechem means what? Shelter. Hamor means what? Jackass. All right. The strong one. The Hivite. All right. The Hivite. Prince. Nissi. Prince. See that word? There's Ser in that word. He's a warrior and a prince. He was a prince. Hamor, the prince of the land. And he kept on taking her, and he kept on laying with her and humiliating her. Now, I don't think he raped her, because later on it says that he keeps calling her a virgin. But this man, this Shechem, fell in love with this girl. And I believe this girl fell in love with him. Now, they've been looking at each other for a long time. All right? Now, he grabs her, and he takes her home with him, and he undresses her, and he looks at her, and he takes her to bed with him, and he's sitting there looking and touching her. Okay? He's in love with her. And evidently, their hearts are singing to each other in love. This is the story. Now, first of all, these women are very well dressed over there. They don't uncover themselves. And this woman, when he undressed her, it was the same as raping her, even though I don't think he did, and the rabbis don't think he did, because when he starts addressing her father and her brothers, he said the virgin. He keeps calling her the virgin. Evidently, he had not consummated marriage with her. Okay? And the boy was in love with her, and the girl was in love with the boy. This is a love story, okay? A love story. And he kept on humiliating her. He humbled her. He brought shame upon her by undressing her. Okay? By undressing her. Wa tidbog. Nafsha. Dinah. Be. Okay. Bat, Yaakov, Wayehav, Et, Ha, Nara, Levar, All, Lev, Ha, Nara, and kept on clinging his very soul to Dinah. His very soul was clinging to Dinah. He was deeply in love with her. These people had been meeting for quite a while. He took her into his home. She probably had a home. He probably lived in a house with four walls. Okay. He took her into this room, and they kept on laying down with each other. By the way, they didn't have chairs like we have today. They laid on the floor. They laid on couches. Even their tables, they laid up to the table when they ate. They didn't sit in chairs. So he kept on laying there upon the couch with her. And he kept on undressing her or humiliating her, exposing her to himself. Okay? And it says, and his soul kept on clinging to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he kept on loving her. The word in the Septuagint is agapesin. He would have given his life for her. This was a deep, deep love. This boy loved this girl. And evidently this girl loved this boy. But they're not acting just exactly right. And the maid, Hana'ara, the Parthenon, in Greek, in the Septuagint it says Parthenon. Parthenon means an absolute virgin. Now the rabbis and the scribes, when they translated this from the Hebrew into the Greek, they believed that she was a virgin still. She has not been penetrated. She has not been taken in marriage yet, even though he has seen her and she has been exposed to him, and he has humiliated her by undressing her and taking her into his home, which was not acceptable. Okay, this wasn't acceptable behavior. And he kept on speaking unto the heart of the virgin. See, she's still called a virgin. He kept on speaking. His soul kept on speaking to the heart of the girl's soul. This is love. You ever been in love like that? When your hearts spoke to each other? You could just, your love just flowed from one to the other. That's what's happening here. This is a love story. His heart spoke to her heart. Their hearts sang together. All right. Wyomer, Shechem, El, Hamar, Avi, Lamor, Ka, Li, Et, Hayalda, Hazoth, Leisha. And he said, Shechem, unto Hamor. Shechem, shelter, Hamor, jackass. Okay? Hamor was probably a big, tough, very much of a warrior man. Okay, I want you to get the idea that he's big like Jacob. He's very big. He's a warrior. Okay? He's called a strong. He's called an ox of a man. Okay? But I'll tell you what, a jackass is stronger than an ox per pound. Now just remember that. They named him this for some reason. His father. And he kept on saying, take for me the girl. Now this word girl here, Ya-la-da, this means child. This means a young girl. She probably wasn't over 12 years old. She's a young, beautiful girl. And he is in love with her. All right? This word is paidion, paida in Greek. It's translated over paida. Paida is a young child. All right? So she's not an older woman. She's not 17, 18 years old. This girl is probably 10 to 12, 13 years old at the absolute most. At probably not 13. Okay? Because they wouldn't call her by this name. But remember, back in those days, girls got married when they were young. Maybe Isaac married Rebekah when she was 9 or 10 years old, because she still had her wet nurse. And in the Hebrew it said she was still nursing her wet nurse. And her wet nurse went with her. Okay? So she was young when he married her. This was not unyoung. Now over there in the Middle East today, there are those sheiks over there that buy and marry a girl from 7, 8, and 9 years old. Now in the Mormon religion, where we have over there in Utah and Nevada and the wilds of different places, we have what we call polygamy over there. And we have these, they have different areas that are polygamous. This one guy got in trouble for, these men were marrying these girls 7, 8, and 9 years old, and they were marrying them. They were performing the act of marriage with them. They were cohabiting with these young girls. Now back in this time, and even in the Middle East, but not in America. That's really, that's what we call child molesting in America, whether it's right or not. Anyway, these are young girls. Okay? Now, this girl is young. Okay? This girl is still a virgin, though. I'm telling you, it keeps calling her a virgin. And he said unto Hamor, Shechem said unto Hamor, his father, saying, and he kept on saying, take for me the young girl, this, for my wife, for my gunika, tauta. This one for my wife. Now, I want you to understand something right here. I want you to understand this right now. Jacob is in a foreign land. He comes and he camps toward the city of this city, or toward the gate of this city, and he goes out there and he buys this pasture land out there to keep his sheep. All right? Now, the prince of the city. Now, when you're the prince of the city, David was the prince of Israel, wasn't he? Do you think he could have taken whoever he wanted for a wife? Do you think anybody's going to say no? They better not. That's the same thing here. Not one bit different. Now, Hamor could have said, hey, along with that money that you gave me, that girl goes with it too. And there would have been nothing said. But I want to tell you about these people here. These must have been somewhat of honorable people. Honorable. This prince could have taken her and said nothing. They were powerful in the land. But he wanted to place her family in an honorable way that their two families could be united. Okay? Now, when they came up there, they made contracts. There was a contract that was made in the walls of this city that he gave this money, so many pieces of coin, silver coins, for this area, and it was all certified. And now we're going to go back to the gates of the city. Now we're going to go back to the gates of the city, and we're going to carry in all of the fathers, all the heads of the families. So now that's where we are right now. Now we're talking about the heads of the families again. And I'm not going to go much further, but I'm just going to get you introduced into this, all right? Wayako, Shama, Ki, Timme, Et, Dinah, Bito, Yuvano, Haya, Et, Miknehu, Basade, We Heresh, Yaakov, Ad Boom. All right. And Jacob, he had heard, third person masculine singular, Cal perfect. Jacob, he had heard that had been defiled. His daughter had been defiled. Okay, defiled. There was some things going on here that wasn't right. She had been defiled. All right? And he held his peace. Dinah, his daughter, and his sons, and they had come in with their cattle in the field. And he was silent, Jacob, until their coming in. He didn't say anything to anybody until all of his sons had come together. All the tribes of Israel had come together. All of his sons. All of his sons had come together. 34 and verse 6. Wayitza, Chamur, Avi, Shechem, El, Yaakov, Ledavar, Ito. And he kept on going in Hamor, the father of Shechem, unto Jacob, to speak with him, to constantly speak with him. Speak words. That word speak there, that means contract. They're hammering out a contract. That's what this whole story is. They're hammering out a contract. And he keeps on going in, and he keeps on hammering out this contract. And I'm going to tell you something. Shechem and Hamor didn't have to do that if they weren't honorable. They could have taken that girl and said, jump in the creek. They could have overpowered them and killed every one of them. And it said nothing. But they were being honorable about it. All right? How much? You want to get one more verse? All right. You want to get one more? We can't stop right there in the middle of this plot. Yuvene, Yaakov, Bo, Men, Hasadeh, Kishamiam, Wayit Atsibu, Ha Nashim, Wayachar, Lahem, Meod, Ki, Nivilah, Asa, Be Yisrael, Likov, Et, Bat, Yaakov, Wekan, Lo, Yaseh. And sons of Jacob. They had come in from the prairies, the field, the meadow. At their hearing, and they became furious. They became vexed. They became madmen. Madmen. The men. And anger. They kept on burning. That word to burn there. Look at that word. They kept on burning to them exceedingly. Meod. Because. Nevalah. Folly had kept on being done. Had kept on being done. Look at that word. He had kept on doing in Israel. To lie with daughter of Jacob. All right, to lie with. He kept on taking her. Matter of fact, he kept her in his home now. Now he's keeping her in his home. He's got her captive, and I think she's cooperating 100%. She's nuts about him, and he's nuts about her. They're both crazy in love. Okay? to lie with the daughter of Jacob. And by the way, she's still a virgin. He hasn't forced her and taken her yet. We know that she's a very young woman. He hasn't forced her and raped her literally yet, because she's still called a virgin. And it says, because not it should be done. Not it should keep on being done. You ready to quit, or you want one more? Is this enough? You want to go next week for the rest of it? All right, Joe, what do you want? You want one more verse, or you want to go?
If you want to read one more.
Okay, I'll read one more with you. Is that all right? Okay, we'll read one more verse. All right. Huh? You got to find out what's going on. You girls are, I know you girls are. Why Devar? I want to tell you something. You can't get this from from the English, can you, like this? Hamor, Etam, Limor, Shechem, Beneh, Hashikah, Nafshah, Bivit Tikim, Tenu, Nah, Otah, Lo, Li Isha. And he kept on begging. And he kept on begging and kept on hammering out this contract. This Devar here is a contract. And he kept on hammering and he kept on begging and he kept on speaking with Hamor, with them, saying, Shechem, my son, is crazy, and his heart is bound, and his heart is absolutely asphyxiated with this woman. His heart is bound to her soul. His soul is bound to her soul. To your daughter. Please give, I beg you, her to him for a wife. Her to him for a wife. Now, Joe, would you come up here with your Amplified Bible and read where we have gone today, and let's just see what it says here. All right? From all the way from 33:15 to 34 and verse number 8. All right? You do very well all the time. You're a good reader. You read to the children all the time, I'll bet you, didn't you? Yeah. All right.
The children.
Uh-huh. All right.
I got glasses.
You've got glasses this time. Now, you read so well with glasses. Last week, without glasses, I don't know how you could do any better.
15 right here.
Uh-huh.
Then Esau said, Let me now leave you with some of the people who are with me. But Jacob said, What need is there for it? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord. So Esau turned back that day on his way to Seir. But Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built himself a house and made booths, or places of shelter for his livestock. So the name of the place is called Succoth, which means booth. Then Jacob came from Padan Aram. He arrived safely in peace at the town of Shechem, in the land of Canaan, and pitched his tents before the enclosed town. Then he bought the piece of land on which he encamped from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. There he erected an altar and called it El Elohi Israel, God, the God of Israel. Now Diana, daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob, went out, unattended, to see the girls of the place. And when Shechem, son of Hamor the Hittite, prince of the country, saw her, he seized her, lay with her, and humbled, defiled, and disgraced her. But his soul longed for and clung to Diana's daughters of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke comfortingly to her young heart's wishes. And Shechem said to his father, their father Hamor, Get me this girl to be my wife. Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled Diana, his daughter. Now his sons were there with him, his livestock in the field, so Jacob held peace until they came. But Hamor's father of Shechem went out to Jacob to have a talk with him. When Jacob's son heard it, they came from the fields, and they were distressed and grieved and very angry, for Shechem had done a vile thing to Israel in laying with Jacob's daughter, which ought not to be done. And Hamor conferred with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem craves your daughter and sister. I beg you to give her to him to be his wife, and make marriage with us, and give your daughters to us, and take our daughters to you.
Okay, that's as far as we can go right
Okay.
there. We don't want to get any more. That's previews of coming attractions now.
I don't want to stop.
This is a beautiful story, but it turns into a violent, terrible, horrible mess. A dark day in the history of Israel. A dark day in the history of Israel. One thing about it is they're going to convert the whole town to Judaism. The whole town is going to be converted to Judaism. This is the first mass conversion to Judaism in the history. Right here. Well, thank you for your attention. Thank you for enduring those hard seats. And I hope it has been enjoyable to you as we studied God's Word. And Sharon, would you come up here and dismiss us in prayer tonight, please? You go out and do something eternal now, girls and boys.
Well, Father, I just thank you for another session of learning your Word and just understanding how you worked in people's lives long ago and how you work in our lives now, Lord. And I just thank you. I ask that you bless each one here and that bring them back safely next week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, we'll start on 34 and verse 9 next week. And that's just about, this next week, we're going to finish Volume 3, and we'll start in Volume 4, I think. All right? And it's been a thrill for me to teach this for you. It's been thrilling. Remember to pray for Brother Randall. Brother Randall's got to go through a procedure